Welcome to the Neighborhood News Network. I'm your host, Kevin Frazier, and today we'll bring you the news and the brews closest to you. Welcome back to the Neighborhood News Network. If you haven't noticed, the city's undergone a lot of transportation changes since the onset of COVID-19. Here to talk about some of those changes is Brian Haagsman from WalkSF. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And Brian, could you tell us about some of the major projects going on out here in District 1 of San Francisco?
Yeah. So there's a lot going on. There's both, some projects that have been in the works for a few years now that are still moving forward, and also the city's thinking about a lot of different ways to keep moving people safely under the shelter in place that we're under, and during this pandemic. What is that? And answering that question, what does it actually mean to move around safely? At WalkSF, we think about making sure that people can walk safely, especially free from traffic crashes and traffic violence, and we think most about people who are most vulnerable, our neighborhood seniors, folks with disabilities, making sure that they can use the streets safely. And the biggest way we do that is through Vision Zero, the city's goal to make sure that no one dies or is seriously injured in traffic crashes by 2024. So that's coming up. And the best way that we know to do that is through changing what the streets actually look like, redesigning these streets so that there's more space for people walking and biking and getting to and from transit, and that people are more visible and have more time at all the crossings so that they're less in danger. There's two really important projects. There's the Fulton Street Safety and Transit Project, which the city is still outlining what will be included in that, and then the California Street Safety Project as well, which is some aspects are being implemented already. And then also seeing things related specifically to the pandemic, like the essential trip card for seniors and people with disabilities to keep people moving around safely.
And Brian, for our viewers who may not be as familiar with Vision Zero, can you tell us more about how San Francisco's been progressing on Vision Zero?
Yeah, so in 2014, WalkSF and a number of other organizations and residents pushed the city to commit to this goal and say, within 10 years, we're going to make sure that no one dies or is seriously injured in traffic crashes. At that time, there was about 30 people who were killed each year in traffic crashes in San Francisco, and about 500 or so who were seriously injured. Unfortunately, we've after a few years where fewer people were dying in crashes, still far too many, as these are preventable crashes, we've seen that number go back up again in recent years. Especially older adults within San Francisco continue to lose their lives to crashes. So we know that even with all the other important questions that we're dealing with during this pandemic, that we know that we need to make sure that we keep protecting people as they move around safely as well. In the past couple months, even though traffic has been down, that's already gone back up pretty quickly. We've seen speeds go up as well. For the people who are getting to work still, walking to catch the bus to their job, especially in a set as essential workers, they're contending with often unsafe streets in addition to everything else they're facing.
And Brian, when we think about these projects that have been on the books for a while that are gaining even more momentum now, the Fulton Street Project, the California Street Project, as well as some of these new initiatives like the Slow Streets effort, how best can citizens and residents stay up to date on all of these different transportation projects in their neck of the woods?
The SFMTA is the local agency that kind of controls everything that has to do with the uses of the streets, and that includes Muni. Each of the projects have a page at sfmta.com. You can find pages there and sign up for updates there, where you'll hear anytime that there's news about that, where they're releasing new designs for that, or if there's an upcoming hearing or meeting about that as well. And there's also a actual staff person assigned where you can reach out to if there's not a meeting coming up, but you have some questions about this or want to get more involved. Of course, Walk San Francisco too has, especially around the Fulton Street project, we'll be making sure people stay informed. And you can connect with me or others at just go to walksf.org is our website.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for joining the Neighborhood News Network. Maybe I'll see you out and about on a walk in the near future.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Howdy, my name is Jeremy Strickland, and for our interview today, we're going to explore the intersection of business and public policy, and specifically how that has affected the restaurant industry during the current COVID situation. Today, I will be speaking with Joyce Lee, an owner of 3 restaurants in the San Francisco in the city of San Francisco. Joyce, welcome. How are you doing today?
Hi, doing good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, Joyce, I first came to know you through your restaurant, Eats, and it's a favorite place that I've been to a few times. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got started in the restaurant industry?
We started in the business about 20 years ago, and we had, bought Burma Superstar. It was an existing restaurant before, and this was our favorite restaurant to go to. And then we found out that they were going to be closing it, so we ended up taking it over. And then we bought B-Star, which is an Asian fusion restaurant. And then the owners of Eats came to us and asked us if we would be interested in buying their business. And we just wanted to keep it in the neighborhood. So we decided that.
Well, Joyce, where I would like to go next is to kind of understand how the current COVID situation has affected not only Eats, but your other 2 restaurants as well. How have you been able to adapt to the current environment to keep the lights on, so to say?
Along with other restaurants, we've also pivoted to doing takeout. I think a big change for us was just all of our restaurants did not have a big takeout model. So all of our focus has always been in dine-in. It was almost like we had to start a new business. It really was something that we had to trial by fire. And every day we just had to, adapt to the situation and make it better. We also had to think about what was a good setup for takeout too. Our dining room was, filled with tables and chairs, for our regular customers, but we had to think about what was a good way for us to keep our employees safe and also, take care of our customers. Like what does that look like? Does that look like we take care of them from the outside? Do we allow them into the restaurant? So we had to kind of be like these architects trying to figure out how to make that all work. Each restaurant kind of has a different setup depending on what the layout of each restaurant has. So like at Eats, for example, we opened up the windows and we just have customers come to the windows and we just take care of them from the outside. The main thing was that, we always have to kind of think about what's the best way to keep our employees safe. Basically, we just kept everything in containers, in disposables. So basically you would just get your food and then you can eat it outside and then you can just throw it away. And it's all either recyclable or compostable.
Do you foresee dining coming back? And is that going to be tables 6 feet apart? What do you think is going to be the future of Eats and your other restaurants in the next maybe 3 to 6 months?
I don't know when they're going to allow diners to come inside again. It seems like that date keeps changing. I think it's going to be until the end of the year that they're allowing us to do outside dining. So I don't know, like with San Francisco weather, it gets pretty windy in that corridor. It's going to be tricky to see like how that all comes into play. But we're also willing to adapt, like as more information comes up and as we just kind of see what other people are doing, then we just can adapt with that.
Exactly. So that's one of the things that I've heard throughout our conversation is resilience and adaptability. And so I think that that's a great lesson for many other restaurantpreneurs or restaurant entrepreneurs in San Francisco for them to learn. So Joyce, I just have a final question for you. And it's one we always like to end with. How can residents of San Francisco and specifically the Richmond continue to support local businesses like yours?
Well, we've been so fortunate because a lot of our customers who have dined in are continuing to get takeout from us. So we've been so fortunate to have our wonderful and loyal customers. And, you know, a lot of people, they have just, you know, friends and family, they're all getting takeout from us, and we really appreciate that too. So, you know, helping us, you know, ordering directly from us is the best way to support us. But, you know, we love it all. We'll take it all. The gift cards are also important. Buying wine from us. You know, we're also have some merchandise too. So that would be helpful. And
Awesome.
we really do appreciate all the wonderful support that we've been getting from the merchants, as well as our wonderful community of customers. So thank you so much.
Awesome. So what I'm hearing there is the next time they order dinner, maybe also add on a glass of wine or a t-shirt as well.
Yeah, that would be great. We appreciate it.
For folks who don't know, when I'm not hosting NNN, I'm working on closing the digital divide through my nonprofit, No One Left Offline. Did you know that more than 100,000 San Franciscans don't have the internet access they need to thrive and, in this case, survive? That's why we're so glad to have our City Hall correspondent back, Joel Engardio, to help us sort through why the digital divide is so big in San Francisco and what can be done to fix it. Welcome, Joel.
Hello, glad to be here.
So, Joel, what does closing the digital divide have to do with potholes?
Well, when you think about City Hall and you think about basic city services, there's nothing more basic than filling a pothole. And there's nothing more frustrating than driving down a street and hitting all the bumps. And you're like, oh, I pay my taxes and why are the streets so bad, right? So that's fine. Having a smooth ride on a street is a nice thing. But in this day and age, what's become a necessity and what's become a frustration is dealing with your internet at home. People have to work from home. They have to attend school from home. And if you have a shaky internet connection, that's way more frustrating than a pothole when you're driving down the road. And it's more necessary to have strong internet connection. And so the question is, should that be a basic service of City Hall, of city government, of making sure everyone has good, strong internet connection, because it is a necessity? And so that's where we come to the idea of the fiber infrastructure. Because how many times have you been in a Zoom call and it's frozen face, right? Or, you know, so if everyone had the high-end, high-speed fiber connection into every home in San Francisco, this would go a long way for equity, in bridging the gap and the divide that we have, and also helping our local economy, making San Francisco more competitive as more people will continue working from home post-pandemic. It's just, there's going to be a shift in how we do things and how we work. And so all the more reason that we should be looking at fiber as a basic city service.
Well, Joel, we know this solution using fiber to universally connect people has been implemented by cities large and small across the US. I know in my home state of Oregon, Little Sandy, Oregon, in the shadow of Mount Hood, even has their own fiber network. So is there fiber in San Francisco right now, or is it a complete absence of fiber?
Well, the fiber that we have in San Francisco is as patchy as our microclimates because you'll have a little bit here and a little bit there and go over the hill and it's a whole nother world, right? So right now you can get fiber. AT&T offers it in about 25% of homes, and Sonic offers it in about 30% of homes. So that's a whole lot of homes, whole swaths of the city where there's no fiber to be found, and it's very patchwork.
Well, so we know that fiber is cheaper over the long term and more durable. So why don't we have a fiber network that's entirely across the city? Why is it only a couple neighborhoods that have this way of the future, so to speak?
Well, we tried. We former Supervisor Mark Farrell, who was also mayor for a short time in 2018. This was his main push, that he really wanted to build out a fiber network. That, you know, he always said that it's too expensive to put fiber in every home as a government, right? But the private sector has no incentive to do it, meaning no profit incentive to cover every home. So that's why you've got the patchwork where the demand is highest, right? Then they will meet that demand. But we're talking about everybody should have access to that. So Supervisor and then Mayor Farrell wanted to have the city build the system and then lease it out to private entities that they could then use for retail. So, so everyone would win in the end. But like anything, it didn't happen because his time as mayor was very short, and he didn't have the time to rally the people to pass the bond that was necessary to generate the revenue to build out the infrastructure. So it was going to be on the ballot last year, and he pulled it off the ballot because there just wasn't, he didn't think it was going to pass. So I think we shouldn't give up. We should try again.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Joel, we need this fiber. How do we create a fiber revolution that makes sure everyone has high-speed, affordable internet?
Well, one thing we have to do is get our act together and follow Los Angeles's lead, because now the critics of fiber will say it's so expensive. And no one wants to tear up streets, right? And all of the things that you would think about for an infrastructure project of that magnitude. But there's something called micro trenching. That's where you can install the fiber with just a few inches wide of a cut along a street or sidewalk and about 24 inches deep. So you're not tearing up the whole street. You're just laying in the fiber very close to the surface. So it's something that that's step one. We definitely need to get micro trenching allowed in San Francisco, so then we can move forward.
Well, Joel, we can always count on you to bring us into the weeds of infrastructure and City Hall policy. So thanks for giving us a roadmap, quite literally, for closing the digital divide in San Francisco.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks again for watching the Neighborhood News Network. I'm your host, Kevin Frazier. And as always, remember, we're bringing you news by neighbors, for neighbors. So let us know what stories we should share next. Have a good one.